with the Saints and Drew Brees just missing in the Super Bowl, the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton's shoulder, the Atlanta Falcons and their not-so-great defense, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trying to rebuild as soon as possible. This episode is the NFC South. I'm Andres. This is my football assessment. And right now, we're going to get right into New Orleans because there's a lot on the New Orleans Saints, okay? Playoff team, the best team in the NFC South, in my opinion. Should be everyone's. Drew Brees, is he still good? Will they win another Super Bowl? Is he still good? Yes. His last season was pretty good quarterback rating-wise. Passing yards, not so much, but I can see why. He started 15 games last season. He sat out that last game, Week 17, for Teddy Bridgewater to come in and get a little bit of, rust off. 364 completions out of 489 attempts, 74.4% completion rating. This is a very high completion rating. I've never seen higher than like a 73, honestly. This is a really high completion percentage. 3,992 passing yards is not that great, but I can see why. 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now that stat just screams out to me that he was very accurate last year, and he did not miss a beat. Now, 489 attempts, this is very low, considering that a lot of QBs go over 550 or 560 attempts at least. The highest attempts I've seen last season was 700 by Andrew Luck, and third was like 675 attempts by Ben Roethlisberger, one of the older quarterbacks, and still a high number of attempts of throwing. Second lowest interceptions last season behind Aaron Rodgers with 2. He had 5 interceptions, and Aaron Rodgers just had 2. That's ridiculous. He also had second lowest attempts in 15 games than Russell Wilson in 16, which was 427 attempts. So, in essentiality, Drew Brees was throwing the ball a lot, but he was kind of going down in numbers because he's getting old. He's 40. He's, the arm could be withering. He's on the last year of his contract as well. Same situation with Phillip Rivers. Writing out this contract. Good backup QBs. Just different situations because the Chargers aren't that good. The Saints have a great staff, have a great coaching staff, have a great mentor in Drew Brees. I feel like Teddy Bridgewater should not have a problem coming back. Drew Brees, honestly, seeing his stat line wasn't surprising at all. I knew he was a really good quarterback. I never doubted him. And I honestly believe that Drew Brees should be one of the better quarterbacks next year if he's going out in his last season. Teddy Bridgewater is going to step up, I hope, in a big way. I've been a big Teddy Bridgewater fan ever since he's played for the Vikings. He did really well with the Vikings, and then he just blew out his knee, which was terrible. He's missed so much football that he hasn't been even considered for a starting position. He was put in backup, third string, here and there, thrown around, and now he's on the Saints. This is his perfect opportunity. If he somehow doesn't show up next season, then there's going to be serious doubt around if Teddy Bridgewater can play football again. But let's move on for the New Orleans Saints. They had a lot of acquisitions. They did a lot of re-signings. They signed Latavius Murray. They signed Mario Edwards. Remember him? Defensive end from the Bills and also Dolphins. Nick Easton, who was a guard. Marcus Sherrill's defensive back. Jared Cook, tight end. Eric McCoy, who's a replacement for Max Unger. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's a safety. I like the pickup with Latavius Murray. Get a better, younger version of Mark Ingram. And speaking of Mark Ingram, I honestly feel like he's gone down in numbers and he's just hitting his prime. So it's, it doesn't look good for Mark Ingram to come back and try and put up the same numbers he did the season prior. As far as the Saints go, their halfback core is set. The wide receiver core is set. Their quarterbacks are pretty much set. Their tight ends are set. Their offensive line is set. Their defense is pretty good. Honestly, the Saints are the most prepared in the NFC South and most prepared in the NFC for playoff contention, along with certain other teams. No more of the conference championship call, please. I don't care anymore, okay? I did care a lot. I thought it was BS. I thought they should have called it. But it was all on Drew Brees. In that overtime period, the pressure got to him. What did he do? He made a rookie mistake. He threw it up and believed in his receivers way too much. He threw a Hail Mary, and the Rams easily picked it off. And it was another no call, might I add, for pass interference. And the fact of the matter is, it was all on Drew Brees. It wasn't for the refs. It wasn't all on the refs. Who cares about the refs? If the player doesn't show up and actually do something, then I can't say anything. I can't back it up. Oh, yeah, they should have called that play back. If they did, they probably could have gotten a touchdown and won the game. Yeah, they could have, but they had an overtime period. What did Drew Brees do then? Also that. This is the Saints' last chance with Drew Brees practically under contract. Don't screw up the chance you have with Teddy Bridgewater and vice versa. Teddy Bridgewater, you shouldn't screw up the chance you have with the New Orleans Saints. You have a great mentor in Drew Brees. You have a great head coach in Sean Payton. I fully believe if Teddy Bridgewater has learned enough under Drew Brees, he can show up for the Saints and be a great quarterback for the Saints in the future. On to other quarterback issues. Carolina with Cam Newton. I am seriously worried about Cam Newton and his injuries. He has shoulder problems. They pose doubts as if Cam Newton is any good anymore. Is he? Should he be? I don't know. Cam Newton does not look at all any good. 320 completions for 471 attempts last season with a 68% completion percentage, 3,395 passing yards and 488 rushing yards. Those rushing yards are the second lowest numbers in his career, with a 24 touchdown to 13 interception ratio. This tells me that Cam Newton is not in it anymore. Either that or his shoulder had a lot to do with his season, because Cam Newton had his second lowest rushing yardage in his career. His passing yardage wasn't that good compared to other seasons. It's average. But it should mean no different. Cam Newton should always put out a great game. We've been expecting this ever since he was picked number 1 overall to the Panthers. We've been expecting greatness out of him. We got a glimpse of it, Super Bowl 50 season. Where is he? Where is he now? I don't see him. If Cam Newton is healthy and uses receivers well, he could more than have a 4,000-yard passing season. All right? Onto the team as a whole, they signed Eric Reed. They signed Matt Paradis. They re-signed Darrell Williams. They signed Bruce Irvin, Chris Hogan. And they drafted 3 really nice players for the team. Brian Burns, Greg Little, and Will Grier. Who else am I forgetting? Oh, right. Gerald McCoy. What? Here's one issue I have, okay? Gerald McCoy was dropped by the Buccaneers in the middle of the offseason for whatever reason. I have never known why. And they pick up Ndamukong Suh. We'll get to that when we get to the Buccaneers. But right now, Carolina, they pick up Gerald McCoy. This is huge. For A, the defensive line, they're not that good. And B, Gerald McCoy is going to have 2 amazing games next season, guaranteed. Every player who was betrayed by their former team has had a great game. Example, Steve Smith. What did he do? He got traded to the Baltimore Ravens, and then he played the Carolina Panthers, and he destroyed the Carolina Panthers. That's just one main example. There's many others that I could bring up. Joe Montana being traded to the Chiefs, facing the 49ers and destroying them. onto the draft side of things. Brian Burns, he's a nice pickup for the Carolina Panthers. He's a perfect set for them. Will Grier stands out to me a lot. His senior season in college, holy crap, it was amazing. 266 completions out of 397 attempts, 67% completion rating, 3,864 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, with an 175.5 quarterback rating. That's inhumane. That's insane for a quarterback. Let alone you have under 400 attempts and almost 4,000 yards. That is inhumane for any quarterback, college or professional. And this is perfect, okay? I'm not saying Will Grier is the greatest quarterback in the draft. I'm not saying that without a shadow of a doubt. I am saying if Will Grier is up to this potential and up to this development with the Panthers, if Cam Newton goes down, the Panthers should have no worry. The receiver core is pretty young and is pretty decent. Their halfback core is pretty good. Their offensive line is really good. Their defense is starting to get a little bit better. So if anything, if Cam Newton goes down, it's a perfect opportunity for the Panthers to utilize one of their future pieces in their offense. Will Grier looks to be their future quarterback if Cam Newton cannot prove himself this year. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I feel like are on a prove-it-deal year this year. There's a lot that I've pointed out, and there's a lot that should know that this is their last year if they don't prove what they're worth this year. Will Grier got better from his junior year in Virginia. Senior year was best statistically. He could be a potential savior for the Panthers if Newton falls again. I said that. And honestly, the Panthers, I don't fully believe them to be a playoff contender this year. It's another rebuild year, a tiny one. It's not as big as the Redskins or the Giants. But they are in a rebuilding stage. And I feel like if Cam Newton can't prove himself, then Will Grier is going to step up and really, really take the Panthers over the top with the right pieces. Speaking of a team that doesn't really have much issues with their players, just in general they're playing, Atlanta. It's... Oh my God. Is Matt Ryan the problem with the Falcons? Absolutely not. A lot of people have not seen this or maybe have ignored this, but Matt Ryan had his second best statistical season, which statistically is very similar to his Super Bowl MVP season in Super Bowl 51. Matt Ryan last year went for 608 attempts, completed 422 of those for a 69.4% completion rating, 35 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, started all 16 games, by the way, and had 4,924 passing yards. That is top 5 passing yardage in the league. I think number 2. Maybe not number 3. Honestly, Matt Ryan, at his age, doing this, he's almost as close to Tom Brady as anyone else is. He had an MVP candidacy year and no one noticed. Defense, however, they were 28th in the league for defense. They allowed about 384.5 yards per game, allowed 8th worst points allowed with 423 points. If that doesn't prove that the Falcons' offense is deadly and the defense is just horrific, you must be on something. Honestly, if you haven't seen that, you are honestly delusional. The Falcons have been dealing with defensive issues ever since Super Bowl 51. They cannot recover. Only year statistically close to this last year performance was his actual MVP season. That's Matt Ryan. Now let's talk about the acquisitions that the Falcons made over the offseason. They got Grady Jarrett. They franchise tagged him. They got James Carpenter, Jamon Brown, Kenton Barner, Adrian Claiborne. Really just depth chart key players. And they drafted 2 linemen, which I thought was pretty good. Caleb McGarry and Chris Lindstrom. They heavily target offensive linemen during the offseason and the draft, which I don't blame them. I feel like that's a big issue. I feel like that's an issue that needs to be covered. Another issue that needs to be covered is their defense. But is it actual players? No, it's their defensive coordinator. And I'm glad that they did this. They got back Dirk Koetter at the most opportune time possible. Dirk Koetter is back as their defensive coordinator. Who's Dirk Koetter? He used to be their defensive coordinator when they were amazing, when the Falcons were amazing. Believe in Matt Ryan still, okay? Matt Ryan still has more years left in him than Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, or any other old quarterback that looks good right now. Matt Ryan is probably one of the best quarterbacks way into his prime, other than Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Ben Roethlisberger. Okay? Honestly, Falcons' potential, dark horse. I feel it. I completely feel that. And I'm going to talk about another team later on that I feel like is another dark horse that a lot of people are overlooking. But Falcons are a potential dark horse if their defense stands up this season and really shows up. I feel like their defense is going to be very underrated. 100% they should be. And I feel like Dirk Koetter can really put them over the top of defense. Matt Ryan, if he keeps doing what he's doing on offense, they're going to be great. If Devonta Freeman stays healthy and if he does what he does in those previous years, he's going to be great. All in all, if the Falcons' offense stays as they did last season, they're going to be fine. If the Falcons' defense changes from last season and actually does good, that's going to be way better than what they're doing last season. I can 100% guarantee that if the Falcons change their defense, it's going to be straight playoffs. They're going to go straight to the playoffs, along with the Saints. A team that I'm not seeing that they're going to make the playoffs is Tampa Bay. Man. I really don't know what to say for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Other than I'm very optimistic in their coaching staff. Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles. Bruce Arians was hired as the head coach, and when he got the head coach position, he said he wanted Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator. He got it. And then the rest of team's free agency. That's really how it is. By the way, remember when Bruce Arians said he'll never coach again unless it was the Browns? Yeah, me neither. Never really noticed. I immediately thought about that when he was hired. I was like, what are you doing? You missed your opportunity with the Browns. Now you're going to go for a suckier team in the Buccaneers? I mean, no cruelty to the Browns. They're going to be a great team. But I mean, wow. Couldn't have chose a better team. Their acquisitions are interesting. There's only a good few that I feel like are really good. Donovan Smith, they franchise tagged and re-signed him for a little bit of an overpaid deal. They got Rashad Perriman, Deion Buchanan, I thought was pretty good. Cairo Santos, they needed a kicker. Shaquille Barrett, that's pretty good. Blaine Gabbert, what are you doing? And then this is the one signing that kind of really made me mad. They released Drew McCoy for whatever reason and then signed an older, suckier version of Gerald McCoy in Ndamukong Suh. Why? Out of all people, Ndamukong Suh for $9 million. You think that's worth it? What are you trying to do? Vita Vea is a great defensive tackle. I don't know what you're doing trying to bring this guy in. He's no mentor if I've ever seen one. I don't believe in Ndamukong Suh anymore. Look, he went to the Dolphins. He did practically nothing. Rams, he just scared the defensive line, and then they allowed Aaron Donald to get a lot more sacks than he normally would. Like, that's pretty much it, man. I'm sorry. And Ndamukong Suh, I mean, he was a great player for the Lions, and that's pretty much it. He's not that good of a player anymore. Stop believing in Ndamukong Suh. Stop overpaying him. He's practically sucking your money dry. Another thing that I actually like about the Buccaneers is that they actually believe they can turn around Jameis Winston. And if they can, that's a huge plus for both Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers. I feel like, personally, Jameis Winston, in his tenure in the NFL, he's done very subpar. He's not that great of a quarterback, and his talent is pretty much lacking. In 2018-2019, he played 11 games due to the fact that he was battling with Ryan Fitzpatrick for the starting position. He went 378 attempts, and out of those 378 attempts, 244 completions, with a 65% completion rating, 2,992 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Now, why does that surprise me? I don't know why. Because he played 11 games, threw for under 3,000 yards, threw 19 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Winston is not good, okay? But hopefully this year is different for him and the Buccaneers. And I honestly believe that. I feel that, all right? I don't wish any quarterback or any person or any being or any team the worst, okay? I only see if you're bad, if you don't have any promise, it's just not going to work out. So here's what I'm going to say. Jameis, there's promise, okay? There's a bit of promise. Now, should we all believe in you? I don't think so, because you haven't earned our trust at all since you've been in the league, okay? Ever since you've been in the league, you've been giving us below 3,300 yards per season, very subpar seasons, and eating W's when you're actually eating L's every single week. Jameis, if you don't change your demeanor and the way you play football, you're not going to succeed in the NFL. Same goes for Marcus Mariota. I mean, honestly, humble as hell, but Marcus Mariota, he needs to become a better quarterback. He needs to get back in the training room. He needs to be more healthy. Same with Jameis Winston. They both need to get back into the training room, become better passers, get stronger mentally and physically, and just come out this season guns blazing. Like, that's it. I'm sorry. Both those quarterbacks have no promise in the NFL if they cannot change themselves, okay? I've had it up to here with both these quarterbacks. They have had promise. They have looked pretty good, and then they just suck for the rest of the season. I don't understand it. Pick a side. You either suck or you're either good. Pick one. But that's pretty much it for the NFC South. I've covered all I wanted to cover. I didn't talk much about the running game. I know that is a fact. Carolina, Christian McCaffrey, he's a great running back. There's no doubt about it. I only talk about the run game if I feel like there's any doubts, like I did with the New Orleans Saints and Mark Ingram, and that's pretty much it. Tampa Bay run game, I actually don't know any of the running backs. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they need to get on their A game. As far as the winners in the NFC South, it's a close neck-and-neck battle with the Saints and the Falcons. I feel like the Panthers will go 6-10. I feel like the Buccaneers will go 4-12. I think that's fair. The Falcons, I feel like, will have a 10-6 or an 11-5 season. I feel like the Saints will have a 12-4 or 13-3 season again. Honestly, I feel like Atlanta and New Orleans are going to have really good seasons. I feel like they're both going to be great teams in the playoffs, and I feel like they can both have potential Super Bowl candidacy, okay? That's it for this episode. And up next, I'm going to do NFC North, and I'm going to finish with the NFC West. And 100%, I'm going to get 2 more episodes in before that Thursday night football game, the Bears versus Packers, at the start of NFL's 100th regular season. And I am very, very excited for the season. I'm very excited to be giving you everything I can to deliver and give you every single news, storyline, game from the NFL in these next weeks. Hope you enjoyed listening. Like, comment, subscribe. I am now on Spotify. I mentioned that in my last episode. Please follow me there if you on a car ride, going to work, going home, a hobby, anything else. Listen to me and my words if it means anything. And please, please, please subscribe. I'm Andres. This is my football assessment. Signing out.